Chapter 12, Women in the Philippines, Introduction, a glimpse into the Filipina. Hello everyone. Welcome to Chapter 12, Women in the Philippines. This chapter is a journey through time, exploring the remarkable resilience, strength, and contributions of Filipinas. We will look at how their roles and status have evolved from pre-colonial times to the present day, shaped by history, culture, and their own relentless fight for equality. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a story of a nation seen through the eyes of its women, a narrative of both endurance and empowerment. Pre-colonial Philippines, a society of complements. Before the arrival of Spanish colonizers, Filipino society was largely egalitarian, characterized by distinct but complementary roles for men and women. This period was not defined by a rigid patriarchal hierarchy but by a balance of contributions, where gender was a social concept rather than a basis for power imbalance. Women were highly respected and held significant influence in the community. They had the right to own and inherit property, engage in trade and commerce, and were integral to the economic prosperity of their barangays. At the core of this respect for women was the institution of the babaylan or catalonan, female spiritual leaders who served as priestesses, healers, and mediums. Their authority was immense, transcending the spiritual realm and extending into social and political life. They presided over religious rituals, acted as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds, and were sought for their wisdom and healing abilities. According to the research of Dr. F. Landa Jacano, a prominent Filipino anthropologist, these spiritual leaders were so highly revered that their position often rivaled or even surpassed that of the male chieftain. Their role was a clear indicator of a society where women's power was not only accepted but deeply integrated into the cultural fabric. This period is also rich with folklore and legendary figures that embody the power of pre-colonial women. A notable figure is the legendary Princess Erdusha, who, according to the accounts of the 14th century Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta, was a fierce warrior princess who ruled the kingdom of Tawalisay. The exact location of Tawalisay remains a subject of debate among historians, but many, including some modern Filipinos, believe it to be in the area of Pangasinan. Ibn Battuta's account describes a woman who led her army, engaged in duels, and had a strong command over her kingdom, a narrative that stands in stark contrast to the submissive female roles later imposed by foreign powers. Philippine women in the Hispanic period, the veil of subjugation. The arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century marked a dramatic shift in the status of Filipino women. The Spanish introduced a new social order rooted in Catholic doctrine and a strong patriarchal system. This new ideology confined women to the domestic sphere, emphasizing their roles as mothers and wives, and limiting their public influence. The ideal Filipina, as prescribed by the friars, became the modest, pious, and submissive woman whose life revolved around the home, the church, and the family. This new ideal was famously captured in the Maria Clara archetype, a character from José Rizal's novel Nali Mi Tanhair. Maria Clara became the quintessential symbol of a demure and fragile Filipina, a persona that reflected the values imposed by the colonizers. Education for women was severely restricted, primarily limited to catechism and domestic skills taught in convents. This system was designed to cultivate a passive femininity, stripping women of the social and spiritual authority they had enjoyed in the pre-colonial era. The once powerful babaylan were hunted down and demonized, their rituals replaced by Catholic rites led by male priests. Despite these systematic attempts at subjugation, women did not passively accept their fate. They were active participants in the resistance movements, with some even rising to lead revolts. A prominent example is Gabriela Silang, who, after the assassination of her husband Diego Silang in 1763, took command of the Ilocano rebel forces. Known as La Generala, she led a final siege of Vigan on horseback, becoming a powerful symbol of defiance against Spanish rule. Another fierce leader was Teresa Magbanua, dubbed the Visayan Joan of Arc. A schoolteacher who became a military general, she is credited with leading troops to victory against both the Spanish and American forces in the Visayas. Her bravery demonstrated that the fighting spirit of the pre-colonial Filipina was not extinguished but simply waiting to be ignited. Filipino women in the American era, education and emergence. The American colonial period brought about a new set of changes, primarily through the introduction of public education and democratic ideals. While still a colonial power, the Americans opened up educational opportunities to women, which became a powerful catalyst for their social and political emancipation. The establishment of institutions like the Philippine Normal School and the University of the Philippines allowed a new generation of Filipinas to gain formal education, enabling them to enter professions like teaching, nursing, and medicine, fields previously inaccessible to them. This access to education directly fueled the burgeoning suffrage movement. Women's clubs and organizations began to actively lobby for the right to vote, arguing that their participation was essential for national development. Key figures such as Pura Villanueva Calá, Concepcion Felix, and Inés S. de la Paz led the charge, organizing conferences and writing petitions to the American colonial government and later the Philippine Commonwealth. Their decades-long struggle culminated in a plebiscite on April 30, 1937, where the right to vote was put to a national referendum for women. Over 90% of the 447,725 women who registered voted in favor, a resounding victory that cemented their role in the country's political landscape. This period also saw the emergence of women in public life beyond activism. Aurora Aragon Quezon, the wife of Commonwealth President Manuel L. Quezon, was a key figure in social work and a powerful advocate for women's rights. She actively campaigned for women's suffrage and became the first chairperson of the Philippine National Red Cross, a testament to her dedication to humanitarian causes. Her life showed that even within the traditional role of a first lady, a woman could wield significant influence and contribute to national progress. The legacy of educated women from this era is also evident in politics, as some of the earliest female members of Congress were former teachers, highlighting how education became a direct pathway to political leadership. The birth of militant groups with a feminist agenda. As the 20th century progressed, the feminist movement in the Philippines evolved from focusing on suffrage to addressing broader social and economic injustices. The period of the Marcos dictatorship saw a rise in organized resistance, and women's groups began to explicitly link their struggles to wider issues of human rights, poverty, and political oppression. It was in this context that Gabriela, the General Assembly binding women for reforms, integrity, equality, leadership, and action, was founded in 1984. Gabriela emerged as a nationwide alliance of women's organizations, representing diverse groups from urban poor women to students and professionals. All united by a common goal of fighting for women's liberation and social justice, Gabriela's feminist agenda is deeply rooted in the belief that women's oppression is tied to class, gender, and national issues. They have been at the forefront of numerous campaigns, advocating for landmark legislation and organizing protests against government policies that disproportionately affect women. Their relentless lobbying efforts were instrumental in the passage of key laws such as the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act, RA 9262, and the Magna Carta of Women, RA 9710. The latter is a comprehensive human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination against women by recognizing, protecting, and fulfilling their rights. Beyond Gabriela, a diverse range of feminist organizations and movements have emerged, each with a unique focus. Some groups concentrate on labor rights for women in the garment industry, while others advocate for the rights and welfare of marginalized groups, such as indigenous women and victims of human trafficking. The birth of these militant groups signifies a shift from mere reform to a radical feminist agenda that challenges the very structures of society. They have successfully brought issues of gender-based violence, sexual harassment, and reproductive rights to the forefront of national discourse, ensuring that the fight for women's rights remains a vibrant and powerful force in the Philippines. Notable modern Filipino women. The contributions of Filipinas extend across all fields, with countless women breaking barriers and achieving global recognition. In the realm of politics, Corazon Aquino stands out as a powerful symbol of democracy and courage. After the assassination of her husband, she led the 1986 People Power Revolution, which peacefully toppled a dictatorship and restored democracy to the country. As the first female president of the Philippines, she proved that a woman's leadership could be a force for monumental change, earning her international acclaim as a modern-day heroine. In recent years, 2 women have exemplified the modern Filipinas' fight for truth and justice. Maria Ressa, a journalist and co-founder of the news website Rappler, has become a global icon for press freedom. Her relentless reporting on disinformation and abuses of power led to her being awarded the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize, in recognition of her efforts to safeguard freedom of expression. Her work demonstrates the crucial role of women in challenging authoritarianism and holding power to account, not just in the Philippines but worldwide. Another key figure in contemporary politics is former Vice President Leni Robredo. Known for her Angat Buhay poverty alleviation program, she transformed the traditionally ceremonial office of the Vice President into a service-oriented one. During her term, her office's efficient and transparent handling of various crises, including the COVID-19 pandemic, earned widespread public trust. Her career, which began as a human rights lawyer for the marginalized, embodies a form of political leadership centered on compassion, service, and grassroots empowerment. Notable Filipino men who championed the rights and welfare of women. The fight for gender equality is not a women-only issue. Men have also played crucial roles as allies in this struggle, challenging patriarchal norms and advocating for women's rights. The most classic example is José Rizal, the national hero, who, through his writings, notably the letter to the young women of Malolos, praised their intelligence and courage and criticized the clergy's subjugation of women. He urged them to use their intellect for the betterment of the nation, providing a powerful early male voice in the advocacy for women's education and empowerment. In more recent times, we have seen men in politics, academia, and civil society actively supporting and pushing for legislation that protects and promotes women's rights. For instance, male legislators have co-authored or sponsored key bills like the Magna Carta of Women and the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act, recognizing that these laws are essential for building a just and equitable society. Their support demonstrates a growing understanding that addressing gender inequality is a shared responsibility, and that a patriarchal system ultimately harms everyone. The involvement of men as allies in the feminist movement is vital for achieving true gender equality. By using their privilege to challenge toxic masculinity, speak out against sexism, and support women in leadership positions, they help create a more inclusive and supportive environment. This collaboration is crucial for dismantling the deeply ingrained patriarchal structures that have oppressed women for centuries, showing that the fight for liberation is a collective effort that requires the dedication of all genders. Current forms of oppression against Filipino women and their responses. Despite the significant progress, Filipinas continue to face persistent forms of oppression. Gender-based violence remains a pervasive issue. According to a 2021 report by the Philippine Commission on Women, a significant number of women still experience physical, psychological, and economic abuse. Furthermore, online sexual harassment and cyberstalking have become new frontiers of gender-based violence, as women increasingly face threats and abuse on digital platforms. The #HijayKO campaign on Twitter, for instance, exposed the widespread culture of victim blaming and misogyny, prompting a national conversation on the issue. Beyond physical violence, women in the Philippines also face economic and social discrimination. They are disproportionately affected by labor market inequalities, often earning less than their male counterparts for the same work. The exploitation of overseas Filipino women, particularly domestic workers, is a pressing human rights concern. These women, often subjected to long hours, low pay, and abuse, highlight the vulnerability of Filipinas in the global labor market. A 2022 study by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies also pointed out the continuing challenges in providing adequate access to reproductive health care and family planning services. which limits women's autonomy and control over their bodies. In response to these challenges, women's groups and individuals are not silent. They are leveraging both traditional and digital platforms to demand justice and push for change. Grassroots movements continue to provide essential support services for survivors of violence, while feminist advocates lobby for stronger laws and better policy implementation. Online activism, through hashtags and social media campaigns, has empowered women to share their stories, build solidarity, and hold perpetrators accountable. This multifaceted response, from on-the-ground organizing to strategic digital advocacy, showcases the unwavering determination of Filipinas to continue the fight for their rights and well-being. Conclusion: the unfolding story, the history of women in the Philippines, is a testament to their enduring spirit. From the revered spiritual leaders of pre-colonial times to the modern-day activists fighting for human rights, Filipinas have consistently challenged norms and shaped their own destiny. While the journey has been marked by both triumphs and setbacks, the narrative is one of unwavering progress. As we move forward, the commitment to gender equality remains a crucial part of our national story, requiring the collective effort of all genders. The task ahead is to continue building a society where every Filipina can reach her full potential, free from oppression and empowered to lead.